Exklusiver Besuch bei Damon Albarn im Studio.
I've been to Morocco, Algeria, Kenya, Tanzania, Congo, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Mali, Mauritania, and South Africa. Some of those countries I've been many times. So I can only really talk about those countries. But that continent on which they're on has had a massive influence on my life. I think it had an influence on me before I ever set foot in Mali, which was the first place I went to.
I got the impression that you are one of the few really free-spirited persons doing whatever you want to do.
I try to be. I do try to be. I mean, you know, how free can you be? I suppose you can be as free as you want to be. But, you know, would I be freer if I didn't have a family? Probably. So, you know, yes, but I'm pretty free. You know, do you know what I mean? I think, but I think freedom can become a problem if it's put in front of all sense of responsibility and commitment. So I'm only free to a certain extent, but I mean creatively I think I'm pretty free. Well, I didn't really feel any sort of urge until we moved from London to the countryside. And in the interim, I spent a summer in Turkey with a friend of my parents. And while I was there, they moved. I knew they were moving, but that was quite an extreme transition from sort of very settled city kid to the streets of Istanbul, and then to a very Anglo-Saxon countryside, you know. And when I arrived in the country, I was somehow different. I was, from my first day back at school in Essex, I was kind of very tanned, and I was probably showing off, speaking a bit of Turkish. You know, from that day, the die was cast that he's a bit odd. I read a lot, yeah, I do read a lot.
What?
At the moment, I am reading a book called Ping Pong Diplomacy, which is about the role of table tennis in Maoist China returning to the international table and its reintegration into the world, basically, post the Cultural Revolution. I refer to the internet-addicted world. I mean, you know, I think it applies to everyone these days within certain social structures, but yeah, it's quite kind of extraordinary the utter absorption in that world that the younger generation have. I mean, it's you know, it's almost you know, you get the sense sometimes that they're not actually seeing what's around them. It's reality is here and not here, and that's very different to how I grew up. You know, I personally I don't think I would have ever made a record like this, but it was Richard Russell who sort of, you know, it was his idea to produce me, and I I felt if I'm going to make a solo record, it has to be about me, and it has to be autobiographical. Now, how do you go about fitting a whole life into a single record? Well, you can't. So you have to treat it as an abstraction. But everything happened on this record. It doesn't necessarily follow in a chronological order, but everything happened. There's nothing, with the exception of one dream that I sing about, but it was a recurring dream from childhood. So in a sense, it feels like it's part of my reality. But everything else is drawn totally from personal experience. And Dr. D, wow, that was such an amazing couple of years, because, when I was kind of commissioned to write, I didn't know anything about him really, other than he was this sort of mystic, mathematical, astrological character within the court of Elizabeth I. So, when I started reading about him, the references were just so alien to me that I had to read the church, the broad church of reading required to just understand the basics about what he was talking about was quite extraordinary. It was like doing a degree course, really.